Welcome to the Behind the Wheel podcast. I am Jared from Koenig, and next to me is...
Yeah, I'm Scott from Koenig. You guys know me. You've seen me before. I was worried that I almost fell asleep a minute when Jared did the intro.
Oh, wow. That's words of encouragement right there from your boss. How about
Listen,
that?
I don't know what to say. I feel like you got to get pumped up. You know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to get him a Monster Energy drink or some sort of Red Bull or something before we get on to this thing.
So that you have... I had my hands. I was smiling. I was engaging.
So you feel that if you use your hands, you automatically have energy.
Yeah.
So you don't... Doesn't matter how you talk, as long as you do this.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, welcome back.
Welcome to the Behind the Wheel podcast. How about that?
Well, that got weird. So, anyhow, welcome back to another episode, and we're happy to have you here. It's cool. We're running a little different today. We're actually doing a topic. Go figure. So that's cool. Let's do a little recap.
Okay.
We launched a piece of content last Friday, as usual, which we do every Friday. So make sure you go over there to our YouTube channel, which is here. But you could be listening on iTunes or Google Play. We don't know.
There you go.
So make sure you head over there and check it out. Also, while you're there, hit the subscribe button because that is the neighborly thing to do.
Neighborly thing to do. Interesting choice of words.
Thank you. Well, in addition to that, we will have another piece of content that goes up this Friday. See the trend here? Every Friday. So there's that. And if you're coming to us from the live stream on Instagram and Facebook, which we do every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, well, thanks for joining us.
Mark your calendars.
Yeah.
It always happens.
Yeah, we do Q&A, and the cool thing about the Q&A is it really gives people an opportunity to... Yeah, I mean, look, you can come, you can ask questions about wheels, you can ask questions about cars. If we know them, we'll even answer them. You can ask questions about, maybe you're having an issue, maybe it's somebody else's wheel, maybe it's something you just want to know. You could even come and have a conversation with somebody, ask a question that you may be having trouble with. Maybe you don't want to put it through, an email. Maybe you don't want to make a phone call, but you want to have a live answer. Mm-hmm. You can come to that, and the reason we go live every week at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram and Facebook is really just to give the opportunity for people to come and have that conversation so that every 2 p.m. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. we will be there to have that conversation, and it's the easiest way for you to, kind of have that one-on-one FaceTime if you want it.
Yeah, well, and speaking of conversations, today we're going to talk about our first mods and, some cool first mods that you could do if you're a first-time car owner or, you got a new car and, you're wondering what first mods to do type thing. So that's the topic of our conversation today.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this stuff stems from, we have an enormous amount of conversations around here, around the office, and we're all car people, so we have a lot of car arguments, like car arguments. And, one of the things we were talking about not too long ago is just that, what were the first mods you really went to? Like, when and that answer is not always the same for every car. I've had a lot of cars in my time, and, I can't say that every modification always, like, the path always starts the same, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what kind of modifications do you feel that you tend to gravitate toward?
Well, I'll start off first by telling a story about the first mod that I did on my first car, which was, a Subaru Bug-Eye RS. I got my first car right around the time... Okay, Civic.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was horrible. I'd rather have a Pops and Bangs tune than hear that.
No.
No, I'm kidding. But I grew up... right around the time when Fast and the Furious was first coming out.
Yeah, it's fair.
And so as a 17-year-old, when I got my first car, and with the influences of Fast and the Furious, of course,
You didn't put a spoiler on, did you?
No. I was going to say my very first mod was a set of those interior neons.
Okay.
That was my first mod. I thought like, oh man, this is going to be so cool. I have a blue car. I'm going to put these bright blue neon lighting accents under my seats, and it's going to get all the college girls.
You really thought that, though?
Oh, yeah. And it got none of the college girls. So.
I mean, looking back, I understand why. It's interesting. I think it's interesting. So now, that was your first car?
First car, first mod.
What was, let's say, your next car?
So the next car would have been, I guess technically speaking, it would have been the Baja.
Okay. And first mod?
First mod, oh, that's an interesting one. The first mod I did on that was, you ever see those like beer tap shifter knobs?
Yes.
I had this brilliant idea that I wanted to put a UFO beer shift knob on there. So technically speaking, that was my first mod, and it was the worst shifter I could. I know. I immediately took that off and put the stock one back on.
Okay. Well, so yeah, that's interesting. So I think that like with I think my first car, the first thing I did actually was I was really performance oriented. I wanted to be performance oriented, but I didn't really have a ton of car skill at that point. I was 16.
Yeah.
Hadn't really ever owned anything, that I hadn't messed with that wasn't a small engine or anything like that. So I knew I wanted power. I didn't exactly know how to get it. And back then, I'm not super old, but I'm definitely a little bit before. I was into cars a little bit before the Fast and the Furious, craze came about. And I don't know that, like the cars that we had then, there were some Civics, and then there were some things that were completely unattainable that, like the RX-7s back in the day or Supras. I mean, then that was a lot. I mean, they're a lot of money now, but I mean, but then it was still a lot of money comparison because those cars were kind of new.
Yeah.
You weren't getting an NSX out of the box, right?
No.
So for me, I ended up getting. My first car was a '92 Camry. Now, I wanna be very clear. I did not want a '92 Camry,
and I didn't want a Bug IRS. I wanted a WRX.
Right, but what I mean is, I really didn't want the '92 Camry. I didn't want anything that resembled the '92 Camry. Look, there was everybody had Civics then. Right? So there was a few cars that were popular. Yeah. There was DSMs, so you had Eclipses and stuff like that. Now remember...
The eggshell, like the egg-looking ones.
Well, that was the new one, you know what I mean? So if you had the money to spend back then, that was a new one. But like there was like the first gens that were around and
like
people were playing
Talon
with.
Type thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like the first gens. 90 or 89 technically to like 94.
Right.
And those were probably that's the equivalent of what we would buy today for a $10,000 to $15,000 car. Mm-hmm. Equivalent. Back then I remember it being like I can get one for like $8,000.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what I really wanted. But that didn't happen. Then I was like, fine, I'll take a Civic, any Civic that I could find.
Right.
Even though you ran the risk of buying a Civic and immediately having it stolen out of your driveway.
And that still holds true today.
Yeah, it really is a tough car to hold on to. So, but a friend of my dad's, who actually was a good portion of the reason that I continued to be into cars. So in hindsight, maybe this wasn't the worst thing. He was very he worked on a lot of cars. He's a big hot rod guy. Also did some part-time stuff at a local garage shop, repair shop. And he said, I got a buddy that has a body shop, and he's got this really clean 92 Camry, which I saw and immediately was like, eh. Now, I had saved up all my own money for this car, right? So I was disheartened by the fact that my parents were like, you're going to buy this car. It's a good car. It's safe. And I did not want that car.
Well, at least it had a 6-cylinder, so you were already 2 cylinders ahead of...
Incorrect, my friend.
Oh, it was a 4-cylinder?
It was a 4-cylinder.
Oh.
So, now, I will say the 6 cylinders in those years, they weren't awesome. Like, when you... Like, they were known... Like, all the Toyota V6s, Toyota 6-cylinders then kind of were known... Those Lexus ones, they were kind of known for throwing rods. Like, it wasn't, like, the best engine ever. But anyhow, so I get this 92 Camry, and I immediately know that I need to... And I had to spend all my money on it. So, I immediately know that I want to make it faster. But there's no parts. Like, today you have the ability to go in and open up a catalog for almost any car and find somebody that makes parts for it.
Yeah.
Go on the internet real quick. So back then there was like one forum that was for the Camrys there, the Camry Man or whatever it was. And then there was...
Oh, you got that rare, like, baby blue Camry. Man, you're next level.
Well, look, there was a few cool Camrys back then.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Steve Millen Motorsports, brother
Millen.
No, that's wrong. Reese Millen.
Okay, there you go.
He had done some stuff. Steve Millen's brother. And they had a Camry that they did, and it was really cool. So it was a manual car. I don't know. It was quick. They did some stuff to it, and there was a couple guys out there that were doing some cool swaps. 3S GTEs into the cars. They used to use Celica all-track water necks and put a whole bunch of stuff in and convert the cars over to 5-speed. That was a lot of money and a lot of work to get a Camry to be cool. And then
and you're also 16.
Right, and it's still a Camry. So, point of the long story here is that the first thing I knew was I wanted more power, and I had to work with Universal Parts, and I really wasn't skilled enough to make anything yet. So, I end up basically lopping off the muffler, and I got what did I think? I had an OPAC. I got an OPAC muffler. It was a high flow muffler, which what's that could do? And we welded it on, and I was like, all right. And then what else do we do? I got plugs and wires, right? Because trying to put some low resistance wires in. I put a cold air intake in, or whatever. There wasn't really any much more to do. You know what I mean?
HIDs weren't big at that time yet. So.
They weren't even out.
Yeah, so
they weren't even out. I mean, I'm sure they were out in some capacity,
right.
But you couldn't buy them like that.
Yeah.
So that was my first mod, and I remember thinking okay, the car sounded better because it wasn't now quiet.
Still slow as molasses.
Very slow. Very slow. Anyhow, so there was that. But I will say that while those were my first mods, immediately following that went wheels and tires.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that because that was almost literally the same for me. Mm-hmm. I got the neons and it's like, oh, these wheels, they're so stock. It makes the car look so boring. I want to, if I can't do a full body kit and power mods and what have you, I might as well throw some wheels on, try and make it look cooler. And so I did the exact same thing.
Well, and I think it's really interesting. It's when you first start modding a car, when you first because then my second car, right? My second car ends up being in the clips. I finally got a DSM.
Yeah,
it was really in my head the whole time. When I saw that, I was the whatever.
Heavens opened up,
right? So I get this DSM, and then the first mod I put on the car was wheels and tires. Now, the interesting part is, and I think this is really interesting when you start talking about why you do mods. First thing is, wheels instantly make the car look better.
100%.
They toughen up the ride. They toughen up your stance. They give you that feeling of having a more sportier feel.
Right, improving handling.
Yeah, especially when, and
well, when they're lighter.
That's true. That's true. But even my the wheels and tires I had on my car when I got it, they were stock 17s because I had a GSX. Mm-hmm. Right? I got it was a 2G, so it was a later model. And it had 17s, but I put on some other 17-inch wheels, a more aggressive tire, and instantly the car just looked tougher.
Yeah.
Offset was a little bit more aggressive, so they sat out a little bit, made the car look better instantly. And on the Camry, I did a set of wheels and tires too.
Really?
Ironically, first set of wheels and tires were Koenigs.
Do you remember which model?
Yes. I think they were caffeines. Koenig caffeines.
That's way before my time.
Yeah. It was a 5-spoke. It was like this 5-spoke that had like these whatever windows. Back then, it was it was one of the. Well, it was a pretty fairly popular wheel, but so wheels and tires, they always seem to make the car look better. I also think what's really interesting is when you first get a car, a lot of times if you buy a used car, there are some things that inherently will make the car feel 1,000 times better if it's well used. New round of tires.
Okay, right, yeah.
New shocks or suspension. Generally, you'll find that if you do any bushings or if you have any slop in it, whatever, doing that stuff
plenty of that.
Makes the car feel a lot better. Doing a new round of brakes, you could put, even if you just go OE stuff just to get you do a new round of rotors and pads, and the car, it stops better, it feels better, it often gets rid of, a lot of noise that may be coming there.
But that's first maintenance. That's not first mod.
But what I'm saying is, So in the order of kind of getting everything going, there are some things that you tend to do that make the car feel better, and wheels and tires are one of those things, right?
Sure.
So when you do that first mod, not only does the car look better, handle a little bit better, but instantly now if you were on tires that were a little worn or a little old, maybe had some road noise to it, you immediately get, when you put a good quality tire on it, you immediately get that new quiet feel. It can make the car feel that much better.
Yeah. I mean, basically, essentially what you're trying to say is it can have a huge impact on, a whole variety of things, and which is probably why so many car people, not just us two, but so many car people put such an emphasis on making that one of their first mods.
Yeah, I mean, and wheels are arguably the one mod that may be the most. What's the contrast? It has the most appearance changing factor.
Revolutionary,
right? Something.
If
like
we
that.
want to, if we want to go that route. No, dude, 100%. Like, I'll go as far as to say that. And I've said this before, that wheels make or break a car.
They can. Sure.
Obviously not literally, but
I know what you mean.
Like, I'm not nearly as well versed in, the power stuff and, the welding and all the stuff, that you're doing. But I do feel very strongly that picking the right set of wheels really does make or break the car.
Right. It really is crazy. Like, I think that when it comes down to picking your wheels and tires, that not only can it set you up to have the most visual impact, but you can do it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can put... Listen, I think the goal, and I say this to you, this is my own personal opinion, right? But I think the goal is to pick a set of wheels and tires that make the car look tougher, that work on the car, that make the car look better, but are not so eye-drawing, are not so distracting that when you see the car, all you see are wheels.
Mm. And you could argue that the wheels that I had on my car prior to the freeforms probably fall into the category that you're talking about.
Maybe
You know?
they were chrome finish,
right?
And and they had a really deep lip,
right?
And so I think what happens is if you're building a car,
right,
you don't want your wheels to be the only thing. Like, imagine this: we've all seen these cars.
Mm-hmm.
That if you take the wheels off the car,
mm-hmm.
Ones that pick these crazy wheels, you take the wheels off the car, you put some stocks back on the car's just a plain car that's lowered or whatever. Like, there's no difference.
Yeah.
But then there's other cars that, obviously, you take them off and you're like, it's just missing wheels, right?
Right.
But when your wheels make the car, I feel like it's not the best look, right?
Yeah. It's a tough one because it's also a question of, what people can afford too.
There's no doubt.
Not everybody can do, like a full build. So
right.
When the wheels do come off and it's just kind of lowered.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is, like, there are sometimes you put wheels on a car, it automatically makes it look better. I'm not talking about those people. That's inherent. There's sometimes that the only thing cool about your car is the wheels. But not because that's the only mod you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that when you put the wheels on the car, the wheels are the only thing people can see. It's like so not fitting in the car. It doesn't look like it's part of the car. It looks like it's just an ornament.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's fair. No, that's totally fair. Like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. I think the best example of what you're talking about is a couple of years ago down at H2O, there was this, and of course, being a Baja owner, I thought this was so cool.
Okay.
There was a Ford Taurus that was lowered.
Okay.
But it had the most wild, like, baller looking, I don't know if they were like one piece or three piece or whatever, but it's the perfect example of what you were talking about because It's like a boring gold Taurus, but like it was slammed on the ground with like these super shiny, modern, chromy looking wheels that were just so out of place. Yeah. And like I liked it because I'm weird. But that's like the perfect example.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it can't look cool.
Right.
I'm just saying.
But if you took those wheels off,
it would just
be a lowered Taurus.
Yeah.
Right. It would just
so I guess for people that are still watching here, what was your first mod, and why did you pick that mod?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, comment below. Let us know. What was it as a car person that made you do that first mod, and why?
Right? Yeah.
Because
everybody has a different story.
Everybody's going to have a different story.
I
think that now, like, I view my mod... I'll give you, for instance, I view my mod list very different today, with all the experience I've had of building cars and doing cars and, and all these different things. Like, I have... My whole mod list is completely different. I'll tell you right now, first mods end up being wheels and tires, suspension. Then I immediately go for, like, start performance stuff, depending on my budget, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a full exhaust, maybe it, whatever it may be, depends on the car too, right? And, a lot of times now, depending on what that first power mod is, it may just be a tune, because for now, if a lot of places you can go for $450, you can make it on the 50 horsepower on the car that you have. Volkswagens are a good example. They, you can go have an,
Kayak,
APR tune,
whatever,
whatever it is.
Right.
And
literally just plug in a computer.
And they'll flash it. You'll give them $450. Yeah, you'll have to go back and do it again when you do other modifications. But, because the car's turbo, and all of a sudden you get 50 more horsepower for $450. That's a banging deal.
Yeah.
That's a banging deal. Do you know
Pops
how hard...
and banging.
Pops, yeah. Do you know how hard it was? Please don't do that. Do you know how hard it was to get 50 horsepower back in the day?
Well, and that leads me to a little bit of a segue question, which I just thought about as you were talking.
Yeah.
Which is to say, do you think new car owners, especially young ones, do you think they have a first mod anymore? And what I mean by that specifically is because there are so many off-the-shelf parts for XYZ car.
Right.
How many new car owners or young car owners are just doing one first mod versus, in other words, like I think,
just dropping, like saying,
exactly.
You know, screw this. Let me order all this stuff.
Exactly. I wonder how many people are doing that sort of thing, or is that a pastime?
I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with budget, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, listen, I've had cars before where I had more parts stacked up in a bedroom, in a garage, or whatever it is, before I even got the car.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I knew I was getting that car, and I was, you know, I'd be on Marketplace or, you know, really Craigslist at the time, right? But, like, I would be all over looking for these used parts that were in really good condition because I knew I was going to get that car. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just start hoarding the parts now.
Right.
And then you go out there, whatever. Now, I don't recommend that, and there's a few practical reasons for that. But one of the practical reasons is that, and I learned this the hard way, like many, many years ago, is that sometimes when you do these mods, especially power mods, they don't go as planned, right? Or the car doesn't react the way it should, and you don't know if it's a mistake, if it's a bad part, if there's something you did wrong. Like you're chasing your tail after that. You end up uninstalling a lot of stuff.
Well, do you mean that because you're installing a lot of things at once?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just to clarify.
Yeah. So that's like one of those things. Like sometimes, like I know for power mods, like, you know, I've done that plenty of times, and now honestly, I have a very, very, unless it's like a full on, like I'm doing an engine build, like where everything's what I tend to do is, even if I have a pile of parts, I install one part at a time, run the car, start the car, even if it's in the same day. Make sure everything is good, come back, start the next one. Because I mean, not with everything. Obviously, you bolt on an exhaust, and you know, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, like, you know, like, let's say you throw in injectors, right? Don't, you know, throwing in injectors, fuel pump, tune, redoing an intake, moving a MAF, like, you know, all these different things.
Right.
You get done and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Like,
there are a lot of unknown factors that you now have to try and navigate through.
You do that whole thing, all of a sudden you're like, oh, do I have a boost leak? Do I have, you know, like, is it because...
Especially if it's a used car.
Yeah, right. Like, you know, did I do something detrimental? Is it the cam sensor? Like, did I unplug something? Did I leave something? Like, it just, you know, it just spirals, right? So my suggestion is, even if you get a pile of parts, go one at a time. Start the car, make sure it feels good, run it around, bring it back, go to the next one. Obviously, some things have to go in together, right? Like, you don't put bigger injectors in without having some sort of fuel controller or tune to back out the fuel you don't need.
Or like a bigger turbo without a bigger top mount or front mount. I mean, I guess you could, but...
Well, right. So for something like that, like, you know, like, and I've done this before, but, like, instead of putting the turbo and the intercooler all on together... Now, I will say, I'm advanced enough now, and probably a lot of you are, that for me, I would do a whole bunch of things that are relevant at the same time, because the truth is, you know, like, I know how to diagnose them really quick. Like, I know how to, you know...
And they all work harmoniously.
Okay, so, sorry, we messed up. We didn't mean to, but we did. We forgot that the camera accidentally shuts off at the 30-minute mark. So for the next 26 minutes or so, we didn't want to throw the whole audio out, so we're going to bring it to you anyway. We're going to be in cartoon form. I know that seems weird. Watch it. It actually is a very good conversation. Thanks. Just keep watching. It's going to be good.
So
yeah, like, I mean, like, so, like, when I do a turbo, if I'm putting it in a front mount, like, I'll do the turbo, the front mount, you know, whatever it may be, and then then I would start it up right there. And do a boost leak test afterwards. I do a boost leak test, make sure everything was good. But I won't do the turbo, the intercooler, this thing, that thing, and the fuel stuff like all in one sitting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then I start the car up, right? Turbo's on, everything's good. Got oil leaks, everything looks good. Tighten that up, everything's good. No boost leaks. Mm-hmm. Now we're on to fuel.
To the next part.
So then then injectors, fuel pump, whatever. Because if you do all that stuff at one time, and then you're like, oh crap, like. Now the car starts up and it runs really rough. You're like, well, where is that roughness coming from? Is it because I'm not getting enough fuel? It's a lot of checklist stuff,
What would you say to someone, especially a first time car owner, first modder, if you want to call it that, like how to manage that urge to just throw everything in? Because let's face it, when you're a new car person or a first time,
you want it all.
You want it all, and you want it all at once.
Yeah.
Like how do you?
Like I said, I don't think it's about buying everything. If you really have the money in the budget, you want to go buy everything. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's up to you. I get that. I've done that plenty of times.
Right.
But I would say when you are the one installing it, do it in steps. And listen, if you're dropping it off at a shop. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I hate to say it. However they install it, they're the ones that have to deal with that slop before they give it back to you.
Right.
But if you're doing it yourself, especially, a lot of DIYers doing it in their driveway, doing it in their own garage, just do systems together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You install them. You could do all the same modifications in that one weekend that you have. You could put them all in, but just do it in a way that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Again, turbo intercooler, stuff like that, you do that together. You're okay. Now, all of a sudden, you do some of the fuel stuff, you're okay. I mean, generally, with all the modern cars now, if you do any of that fuel stuff or really change anything a lot of cars, you need to get a retune. You just can't, you know what I mean? Especially with Volkswagens and some of the stuff, you can't just throw parts in anymore. Back in the day, you could. The older cars, you throw whatever you want in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's clearly a thing. Man, we've just come so far. I'm telling you, back in my day, and I feel like it's back in my day. I'm not that old.
Yeah, you're not that much older than me.
I know, but what I'm saying is I remember, the late 90s and the very, very early 2000s, right when Fast and Furious was starting to come out. I had a 2G DSM. I had a 97, right? 97. Was a couple years old at that point. Mm-hmm. I was super pumped to get it. And when we were going fast, you have to 12. I remember the first time I was at the track and I felt like this is, I felt like I really had the car moving. So we had, obviously done some racing stuff, but
in Mexico. Only in Mexico.
Well, so that was the thing, and then we had which I don't condone, don't do that. But we went to the track quite a bit and tried to keep it on the track, and I remember it was super difficult. Finally got these turbos and stuff like that. Changed the turbo out, went to a 16G, but it's the car was faster, but it didn't feel. It never felt like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, we started seeing some of these guys like Force Performance come out with these 20Gs. And, there was Han 20G. There was a couple different ones. But so I remember getting...
What about the FPs?
Yeah, Force Performance.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. The FP green, the FP red.
Yep.
All
So I ended up getting a Force Performance. I got an FP.
Yeah.
I did a 20G. And I remember at the time, 20G was big.
I know.
20G was whoa, Because most of the other guys, when they said they went to a big turbo, they had a big 16G,
right.
And I remember putting this 20G on, and we got the thing dialed in. I had a set of 550 injectors, and I was I hope that's going to be enough, and there was a reason that they had bigger injectors, but there was a reason we didn't want to go bigger. I'll tell you that in a second.
Yeah.
So we get down to the track, and we had tuned it the best we possibly could. Remember, Apexi AFCs are what we really had. Mm-hmm. That was it. That was kind of it. And then DSM Link came out, which is now ECM Link. And, we had math translators and stuff like that. Anyhow, bottom line is this, is that when you put an AFC in, you really can only control, I'm trying to remember now, I think it's about 30% fuel reduction from factory. So the car came with 440s.
Okay.
So you only had a little bit more headroom. Like, technically on an AFC, like 600 cc's was about the most amount of fuel you could back out.
Okay.
So we left the 550s in, thinking that, all right, we just won't have to lean the car out as much.
Okay.
Okay, because you put 650s in, you got to take away a whole bunch of fuel.
Yeah.
But if I do that, I don't have much room on the AFC.
Okay.
So
right.
So we left 550s in, and we're like, all right, we'll be careful. Anyhow, bottom line is, I ended up going. I remember I finally got to a point where I ran 12.7, and I felt like I was lightning, which sounds silly now. But let me tell you something. 12.7 then was fast.
Yeah.
Pro front wheel drive cars. Pro front wheel drive cars. The import. All the import racing.
Yeah.
Fast was still 10.8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so 12.7 for us locally was light. We felt like we beat the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we started playing with other things, which was like, for the DSMs was like hacking maths, which made the car run really bad sometimes. But by doing it, you can kind of lean the car out. So then we can go to the bigger injectors, which means we can go with more, more.
Yeah.
And then ARP ended up coming out with some head studs. So you swap those out and put a metal head gasket on it. And when the Evos really started to come out,
oh boy,
it just. Like it seemed like technology just got super quick. And then, right there, I ended up going, I actually skipped FP green. I went right to FP red.
Oh my God.
And then I felt like I was maxing that out. And then.
What were you you must have been pushing 500 something by that point. If you're at an FP red?
FP red, I think I was in the 550, 560 to the wheels, all-wheel drive.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
560 to the wheels. And then I remember Force Performance came out with a ball bearing, what they called, it was like, I think it was a 3065. So it was like GT30 front, 65 millimeter back housing, right? About a compressor wheel.
Yeah.
And it spooled so much quicker because the red was a journal bearing and this was like ball bearing. Got too technical, didn't it?
Way too technical, but that's okay. We're going down memory lane now. It's okay.
Yeah, we're going. And I put this thing on and I remember being like I didn't do any settings change or anything. I just put the turbo on the car. Yeah. Electronic boost controllers can only get you double spring pressure of a wastegate.
Okay.
So like I used to keep a 15, 16 pound gate in there in my tile.
Right.
So I couldn't use an electronic boost controller. I literally had like a Greddy Profec B. I tossed that out and had to go back to the manual Holman's.
Okay.
And so what I used to do is I had all my lines, my vacuum lines run in AN, like regular stainless steel braided lines.
Okay, yeah.
And I bought two Holman's. There was a red and a black. Black was like low street boost, low boost settings. Red was track,
It's like the Matrix, like red pill, blue
because
pill.
it was too hard to it was too hard at the time to get out and try to you just carry a wrench and just swap the fittings out and then they were already set. I didn't have to mess with it. But anyhow, so I put this FP 3065 in the car. And you have to guess how many turns.
Oh, oh God!
It's like I dial this baby in, lock down the nut, said, "All right, we'll go for a pull."
Oh.
Now for whatever reason, it's probably just compressor efficiency, but the red, I figured, all right, well the red, I'm at this level, let me back it down a turn, figuring sometimes. When you're in the range,
they had no indication.
No.
What? Okay.
But at the time, when you would get into efficiency, when you get to the point where you're like, all right, I got good boost.
Yeah.
sometimes a quarter of a turn could be a pound. You know, it wasn't like there wasn't necessarily, anyhow, because remember, you're working with a little spring there. Once it gets tension, you're there. So I put the thing in and I back it out one turn, figuring, all right, well, that should bring me down considerably. This thing pulled so hard. I thought, you know, when you're the driver, how it never feels fast? It's the passenger that always says it feels fast.
Yeah.
When I got done, I felt like all I saw was sky. You know what I mean? Like it just. Anyhow, I knew we were on something, and when I that setup, was that on the car, or was there a 35R on the car? I think I sold the car with that setup. Oof. And I had a 35R sitting at my house I was about to swap in. But anyhow, bottom line is when we had gotten that car, I was running 36 pounds of boost on that car, on that turbo.
Jesus.
And I finally ended up getting it to the car made 677 at like 500 and I don't know, like 10 pounds of torque, 511 pounds of torque. And it just felt like there was more. Like it felt like there was more.
Was that must be like a DSM thing, or is that just
what's
the fact that you felt it could handle more? Because like
no,
at a certain
it's just
point,
like there's
the internals would explode.
But, I mean, I had a built motor and everything.
Well, that's
what
what
I mean.
That's what I'm saying.
What I mean is like there's some cars, like especially like, you know, I used to do a lot of tuning, right? So there's some cars when you're tuning, you're just like, you could just feel it. Like you're like, this car has so much more left in it. It just, you could tell because when there's some cars you struggle to get to make power. Mm-hmm. And there's other cars you start throwing really little at it, and all of a sudden it keeps incrementally going up. And that's how this car was. Like even when I tuned the car, the reason I stopped was just because I was at 36 pounds of boost.
You thought you were gonna die?
No. I was at 36 pounds of boost, and I remember like tuning the thing, and I took a bunch of timing out because I was like, oh, I'll make more power with boost than timing. And it just felt like I was exiting that zone where, like, the point of diminishing returns. Like I felt like, all right, I could probably get another. Hairs. Well, no, I probably can get another 50, 60 horsepower to this same setup by increasing the boost and throwing a little bit more time back in. But like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Nobody likes metal confetti.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
So.
Well, one other question or one other segue that I sort of had that I was thinking about while we were talking about all this memories and whatnot is
right.
This isn't really a mod, but I wonder how much value do you think should be placed on having your first mod include research? Because
what do you mean?
Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that I think people, especially new car owners, first-time modders, don't necessarily do enough research when it comes to modifying their car, be it wheels, be it tires, be it performance mods. And I wonder how much value or emphasis should be placed on, you know, adding that as like first mod A.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's different methods for everybody. I mean, I remember back in the day, and there's probably still tons of these. Mm-hmm. You used to go on a forum,
right?
And there would be the mod checklist. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Like the pre-written guide that people had put up and basically said stage 1, stage 2, which is I hate stage numbers. I think they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, if you want to have a plug-and-play system, that's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, you can put mods on a car and get the car tuned and not have to put everything that's in the stage. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is they gave you this thing, and so you could say, well, they researched it for me, and I'm just following the path.
Well, no, I'm more suggesting in
like
terms
quality,
of,
like companies and stuff?
yeah, quality companies, like what does X, Y, and Z first mod do to the car?
Yeah.
In other words, I'm speaking from a point of experience.
Like, what you're saying is, like, when you put a mod in, do you know what it does?
Right, and how it's going to affect your ride quality or your performance or, what have you. And I think there's a lot, I personally, again, coming from experience of a lot of trial by fire and not knowing a damn thing.
Yeah, same.
I think there's a lot of value in researching what you're putting on before you do it.
I have a question for you.
Oh God. Okay.
Can you remember a single mod that you did that you immediately regretted?
That's a really good question. A single mod. It's going to come to me.
I get it.
I mean, it's funny. My gut instinct says that like doing the STI swap on the bug eye was that one, even though that was technically like a big one, only from the standpoint that I didn't end up finishing it myself, and it just turned into a fiasco that had to sort of get fixed.
I understand that,
but that's not really. Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe it was like a set of wheels that like I put on that I was just like,
at least
that's
undoable though, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm assuming if you ask that question that you
No,
have.
I don't know that I really have one that sticks out in my head, but I will say that, and maybe this is a lesson learned, but I was so quick on so many of my cars to take away every creature comfort and strip the thing down. I wanted, I had that race car, build a race car mentality.
No
for
AC,
so long.
bro.
Like first mod, rip the AC out. And
put all that Freon into the environment.
No, we recovered it, sort of. No, we recovered it. But look, so I will say that I had immediate buyer's remorse 2 days after I caged my GSX.
Really? Why?
So I had gotten to a point where I was in the low 11s. And
which was fast back then.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably like 2004, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, and I was trapping really fast. And I remember I was at E-Town, and they, I came back, and when they go to hand me my slip, the guy's like, listen, you click 10-9. He goes, you're done. And I was trapping really fast, and like I remember them having like a little squabble about like oh, you really should tell him to take whatever, that car's got it's got the time in it, it's trapping fast enough, which is right, because I didn't get enough seat time that I really was that quick driving wise, but I remember thinking like it's gonna happen, like, and I'm one of those guys, I want to be prepared, I don't want to get whatever,
for sure.
So I immediately, set the car up. I come back and I immediately like set the car up with a really great fabricator that was local to us. He actually is Tom from Energy Tech.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So yeah. And he's super knowledgeable. He's a really great fabricator, and he does an amazing job on my cage. I mean, kept everything so tight to the car that it was fantastic. You could look through all the windows except for the rear hatch where you saw the two bars coming down from down into the chassis. Yeah. Like there was just you couldn't look from the side and see there was a cage in the car. It was fantastic, really amazing. But about 2 days later, besides the fact that I wasn't the smallest guy in the world and I had to squeeze myself over the door bar into my race seat. I had that buyer's remorse because, like, the car is immediately not super comfortable to drive on the street anymore. Like you don't get in to run to the store because I have to be able to open up the door all the way to be able to get myself over the roll bar.
Yeah.
Over the door bars. Immediately I'm a red flag for cops that are behind me because now it's not only loud and whatever and they want to pull everybody over anyway, but now I got these door bars. I mean these the rear bars that come down into the trunk area you can see through the rear window.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then immediately, they didn't have big back seats, but immediately now you don't have any back seat because you have the harness bar that goes through, and then these two, points that come down to the center part of the car. So
right.
Now you just take the seats out because there's no point to have them in there.
Right.
It just got to a point where I was like, well, now I'm really not going to drive it that much. You know what I mean? Like now I got to be going somewhere to the dyno.
It's really just a race car,
right? And that's the point where I said to myself, it was that car and that moment that I said, I'm going to stop taking cars to this level because I lose enjoyment out of them. It was cool going to the track, but but tracks dried up around our area, and once they started to do that, it was a big commute to E-Town. It cost a lot of money to get the trailer and get gas and get everything, and then buy your gallons, your
backup fuel?
No, yeah, when we would get your gallon, 5-gallon drums of C16 at the time, and by the time you got done, I mean, you're talking about, probably cost you $400, $500 just to go racing for a few hours. And, from that point on, and that's why, like, if even my 350Z, and a lot of the other cars, like, I had a Bug-Eye. Let's see.
Now you remember you had a Bug-Eye. Every time I bring it up, you're like, wait, I had a Bug-Eye?
No, I don't say that. I knew I had a Bug-Eye. I had a Bug-Eye. I had a couple other DSMs and different things. So, bottom line is that it's one of those things where from that point on, I really tried to cling to that OEM plus thing. Make a lot of power, make the car have all the mods, but don't push it into that point where you can't drive it.
That's fair. As you were talking, I realized I recalled my
immediate mod.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it buyer's remorse.
Right.
I'd call it trader's remorse.
Okay.
So
you mean a car got rid of?
No, more of like trading parts.
Okay.
So there was a guy on the Long Island Subaru Club forum that had the same color car as me and everything, and he had, like one of those like June style front bumpers. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was that post that said, straight trade for, June style bumper, whatever, like no cash on your end, whatever. And
you can't figure out why he would want to do that.
I had no idea why.
And then he put it on and he drove down the street and figured it out.
Yep, 100%. And that thing was so much lower than stock.
Yep.
And I remember driving it up to Syracuse where I went to college and just like scraping on everything. And I think I probably cracked it in the snow. I don't remember. That was definitely trader's remorse for sure. I remember after coming back from college, I think I ended up buying a new regular OEM bumper, and I just threw that one out.
Yeah, been there, done that, and then and that's the thing. Like you get those body kits and those lips, and they hang down so much lower.
You don't realize it.
But you can't lower your car anymore because when you do, now it's on the ground.
Yep.
So it's like it really becomes a very difficult piece sometimes to maneuver. My 350 is kind of the same way. That I put those air cups on it just because of that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I feel like we did it.
Yeah, I would say so. That was a lengthy
conversation. That one got out of control. If you're still listening, congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, right.
So anyhow, what do you think? Should we wrap this thing up?
I'd say we should. It's about that time.
All right. So thanks for hanging out. And if you have made it this far, I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't mind. Also, being subscribed to our YouTube channel is far more than just the videos we put up. A lot of announcements, and we just finished just a couple weeks ago. We just finished a giveaway, and it was almost only exclusively announced and run through videos that we had put up on our YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, you could easily miss out. That's number one. Number two, we are putting up a lot of good content. I mean, when I say good content, it may not be, this donut fitment industry's quality entertainment, but there's a lot of good information there. We really
are getting there, though.
Yeah,
we're starting to act. We're starting to act in our
some
in
of
our
it's pretty
pieces
funny
and stuff. So,
or at least we think it's funny, and we're not sure if you think it's funny.
Right.
But let us know if you think it's funny. Put a comment down below. And also, we have some giveaways coming up, that are planned in the future. So stay tuned for that. This Friday, we'll be dropping another piece of content. And listen, from all of us here at Koenig, we wish you and your families, just a very safe, happy, and healthy 4th of July. You guys, like, really, without even joking, you guys mean a lot to us because not only are you the support, but, we're just car people doing car things. And so, we wish everybody, a good weekend. It's a good long weekend to start a good car project.
There you go.
Hopefully you can finish it. Nothing worse than starting a project and then not being able to finish it before you have to go back to work.
That could have been a whole other segue in our conversation.
We will bring that to you next. Anyhow,
the first time we had a project that we didn't finish.
Right. Well, look, I will say this. I'll ask you for some feedback. If you're still listening to this whole thing, if you like this style, which is different from maybe some of our other podcasts, let us know. Send us a message. Write us a comment or something. Because, there's plenty of other topics. I just don't know how much of this stuff you want to hear about us versus, having other actual guests that maybe have something that they're really
more important to say.
Pretty much. So
that's it.
That's it. So listen. Thanks for swinging by. We will be back here next Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, just like we always are. Have a good week. Have a good holiday, and we'll catch you later.